The Chernobyl miniseries, created by Craig Mazin and directed by Johan Renck, is a dramatization of the catastrophic nuclear disaster that occurred at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant in April 1986. The series meticulously explores the events leading up to, during and after the explosion, highlighting the bravery, bureaucracy and cover-ups that shaped the disaster's aftermath. Here's a comprehensive summary of the story, episode by episode. Episode 1, 123:45. The series begins with the explosion at Reactor 4 of the Chernobyl nuclear power plant on April 26, 1986. The initial response is chaotic as plant workers and firefighters struggle to comprehend the severity of the situation. The plant's deputy chief engineer, Anatoly Dyatlov, downplays the incident and orders workers to contain the situation, despite the reactor core being exposed and emitting deadly levels of radiation. The narrative also follows Valery Legasov, a prominent Soviet nuclear physicist who is called upon to assist in managing the crisis. The episode ends with the evacuation of the nearby town of Pripyat being delayed, exposing thousands to dangerous radiation levels. Episode 2, Please Remain Calm. As the severity of the disaster becomes apparent, Legasov arrives in Chernobyl and assesses the situation alongside Boris Sherbina, a Soviet government official. They quickly realize that the situation is far worse than initially reported, with the reactor core completely destroyed and a massive release of radioactive material into the atmosphere. Meanwhile, in Moscow, nuclear physicist Ulana Komyuk investigates unusual radiation levels and connects them to the explosion. She travels to Chernobyl to assist in the response. The Soviet government, led by General Secretary Mikhail Gorbachev, begins to grasp the gravity of the situation, and a plan is devised to prevent further contamination, including the risky decision to drop sand and boron onto the reactor from helicopters. Episode 3, Open Wide, O Earth. The third episode delves into the human cost of the disaster. Firefighters and plant workers who were exposed to high levels of radiation are taken to a hospital in Moscow, where they suffer from acute radiation syndrome. Komyuk continues her investigation, interviewing the hospitalized survivors and discovering that the reactor explosion was due to a design flaw in the RBMK reactors, combined with operator error. Meanwhile, miners are recruited to dig a tunnel beneath the reactor to install a heat exchanger, preventing a potential meltdown from reaching the groundwater. Despite knowing the dangers, the miners work in extreme conditions to prevent a further catastrophe. Episode 4, The Happiness of All Mankind. As the crisis continues, efforts shift towards containing the spread of radioactive contamination. The Soviet government orders the evacuation and establishment of an exclusion zone around Chernobyl. Liquidators, tasked with cleaning up the radioactive debris, face immense danger as they manually clear the plant's roof and bury contaminated materials. The government also decides to kill all the animals in the zone to prevent the spread of radiation. Komyuk confronts Legasov about the design flaw in the reactors, urging him to reveal the truth to the world. Legasov, however, faces pressure from the Soviet authorities to keep the information secret to avoid embarrassment. Episode 5, Vichnaya Pamyat. The final episode focuses on the trial of Dyatlov, plant director Viktor Brukhanov, and chief engineer Nikolai Fomin. Legasov and Komyuk prepare to testify, with Legasov planning to reveal the truth about the reactor's design flaw. During the trial, Legasov courageously explains the sequence of events leading to the explosion and the reactor's instability due to its flawed design. He faces significant repercussions for his honesty, including being ostracized by the Soviet government. The series concludes with a flash-forward to Legasov's suicide, driven by guilt and the realization that his testimony did little to change the Soviet Union's handling of nuclear safety. The closing scenes provide a factual summary of the disaster's aftermath, including the continued suffering of those affected and the eventual fall of the Soviet Union. Chernobyl is a haunting and meticulously crafted portrayal of one of the worst nuclear disasters in history. The series highlights the consequences of bureaucratic secrecy, human error, and the bravery of those who sacrificed their lives to mitigate the disaster's impact. It serves as a powerful reminder of the importance of truth, transparency, and accountability in the face of catastrophe.